Alright, so for anybody who's here, I know I created a separate link for the live stream. Again, more technical difficulties. I couldn't get the link that I had created for the live stream. I couldn't get that to work, so we're not going to do that one. But we're on this one now, for those that have joined this one. I'm deleting the other live stream so people don't get confused. But anyway, my father and I are here. He's over there painting the house, the farmhouse. Last week he had applied a, what do you call it? A primer to the whole house, so that way it would make it easier to paint. This is the layout so far. So what we did today is we applied the second layer of the plaster cloth onto the layout. Once that is dry, then on another day I will come in and paint plaster onto it to give it a final hard shell from which the other rock features can be sculpted and applied. And then over here we have the disaster that is the town, but it's slowly shaping together. I'm working on the engine house today, so you'll see me working on that. As well as we have plastered the river. So the river, as you know, was just plywood at the bottom. And so I've applied plaster cloth sheets to it. That'll make it easier, so when I paint the plaster onto the mountain, I will also paint the plaster into the river, thereby making it not necessarily waterproof, but leak-proof, because in the future there will be resin water poured into there, and the resin is self-settling, so it likes to find any nook and cranny on the way out, so making sure that it is leak-proof is 100% necessary. Also, you will notice that there, for those of you who've been watching, there's a new track. It is that curved track there. We installed that last week. It is isolated from the rest of the track, so that means this joint here has plastic rail joiners, and it is separately connected. And that means that just like the engine house, I have separate switches here, so I can activate different locomotives at different times. This is necessary for a DC layout like mine, because with DC you cannot operate more than one locomotive on the track. It just won't do what you want it to do. So when you have locomotives just sitting around, it's good to have them sitting on isolated tracks that you can shut off while you run another locomotive. So there's a capacity here for 3 separate locomotives. And as you know, this track is extra long, so actually a small train can go there. And in fact, a small train will go there. I have a set of logging cars that will go there. So, yeah, pretty neat. Moonzer, I actually cannot see your profile picture because I'm using my phone this time to live stream, and I'm using a separate software, not a YouTube software. So I actually can't see anybody's, profile pictures or anything like that. But hello, everybody. Hello. I'm not going to go through the list and say hello to each person like I normally do because we are busy, but it is good to have you all here, and this is just a quick update on the layout. You can see I've added some foam in the background for a type of rocky cliffside sort of rock work, so it'll seem kind of like it's been cut so that way the railroad can go along the river there. So yeah, pretty neat stuff. In order to do the plasterwork on the river, you will see that there are no bridges on the layout, or at least not on this side. So a long time ago when I planned this layout, see, this is the thing. My layout might seem like it's, you know, kind of just, you know, what's the word? Like I'm building it as I go along, but actually I've carefully planned out the whole layout a long time ago, including each step of the way. So I knew that eventually I would need to plaster the river, and those bridges would get in the way. So I actually made it so, even though the bridges are technically built and complete, they were able to be disassembled. That way I could easily remove them so I can plaster the river like I just did. Raymond, yes, this is a 4-foot by 8-foot layout. And it sits on a custom-built benchwork table that my friend Steve built for me. I told him what I needed, and he built it. It is designed so the actual table, you can lift it off of the legs. The legs, they fold up, so it's kind of hard to see, but yeah. They lift up off of this piece, and then the legs can fold up accordion-like for transport. So I have had some people actually wondering how come I didn't build it taller, because a lot of people who build layouts, they build them tall. Like the table that is down here would actually be up to here, you know. But the reason why I didn't do it that way is because basically, just like my dad's sitting there, I will always be sitting when I operate my trains, and so actually when I sit at this level, I can see everything really well from that point of view. So yeah, that is why the layout is really low. But if I ever take this to train shows to show it off, I can always have a separate set of legs built that are taller to lift it further up off the floor. But yeah, so isolated tracks for separate locomotive operation. And yeah, I still need to find a place to permanently mount this rail power unit, because I actually don't know where it's going to go. But yeah, so pretty neat. I got a hidden set of tracks back there for storing the passenger cars. I got a separate track here for freight, which will drop off freight. The passenger station will be right where all this is here. And yeah. And in case you're wondering, no, I did not paint my nails. That is plaster that has not come off my nails. Let's see here. The RWS modeler says I'm building a layout, but I don't know how to make a tunnel for it. There's a lot of different methods for building tunnels. I have a small tunnel here that I did, and if you follow some of the videos I've been doing, I recently posted a video of how I did this, but basically I started off with just a single wire that made an arch, and then on top of the wire I built up little balls of newspaper, and then I taped those down to make the basic shape that I want. And then over that I've put plaster cloth. Now this is not the finalized shape. This is still just the basic shape of the mountain. On top of this will go sculpted rock work and stuff like that, so it'll make it look more realistic. There won't be so many right angles everywhere. Jamie says, how did you start the layout? Did you draw it on paper? Well, originally, yeah, it did start off as plans on paper, but then I had a software for basically designing the track layout of the whole thing. So in the software, you can choose what brand of track you're using, so it knows the dimensions of everything, and then you can design your layout on the computer, and that's basically what I did. And in order to translate those plans into reality, when I laid down the basic foam groundwork on the whole thing, I then drew a grid. You can still see the remnants of that grid, and that grid tells me where all the corresponding things will be, which is how I knew, because some people said, "Oh, Alex, you can put a turntable on your layout." And when I really did the planning for this, I realized that there was no way to put a turntable on this layout without either sacrificing the engine house, the town, or the mountain. All three of those things, which I really want on the layout much more than a turntable. So, yeah, so it was carefully planned. And yeah, that grid work is how I knew how to put everything. And yeah, so carefully planning everything out, including anticipating all the steps you will need, is really important when you're building a layout, because sometimes, you know, you go into something and you start working on it and then you realize something else you had just finished needs to be removed temporarily so you can finish doing the next thing. And so it's important to anticipate that when you're building a layout. There will always be hiccups and things that you don't anticipate, but the more you plan it out, the easier it'll go. And I will say that I've had some difficulties with this layout, but this is overall the easiest layout I've built so far. This is the third layout I've built so far, but easiest of the three. Now, over to where my dad is. He is working on the farmhouse. So this was a piece that I actually bought for just a few bucks, basically. We went to a model train show in Portland, and they had a bunch of O-scale stuff upstairs, and when I told them I modeled in O-scale, they said, hey, we got a bunch of O-scale stuff, and hardly anybody comes in that uses O-scale, so we'll give you a good price for this stuff. So I said, all right. And so, yeah, I got that model. It was a different color, but my dad painted it with a primer to make it easier to apply different color paints to it. And so now he's applying those different colors. He's starting off with the blue, but then there will later be like a cream white trim on the farmhouse and stuff like that. I also have I can't show it to you yet, but I have a lighting system that I got for Christmas, thanks to my dad. And, you know, was it just you or did my sister?
Sister.
Oh, okay. So thanks to my sister, I have a lighting system. So I'm actually able to, I'll kind of show you. This is the engine house I'm working on today. You'll see me working on this. But for now, the roof is removable. And if I finish this by the end of today, I'm not sure if I will, but if I finish this by the end of today, I will install the first lighting system into the engine house. It won't be able to light up on the layout, but if I do finish it today while we're on the live stream, I will light it up for you here on this table. But yeah, it's a really cool little plug-and-play lighting system for the whole layout, and really excited to have that. So, Dino says, I like that you're taking your time to enjoy the process of building. Funny you should say that. I'm actually not a fan of the building process. I build because it's something I have to do, and I in my head, I know how I want everything to look. I'm such a perfectionist in that way. And so, yeah, I go through the trouble to build. Sometimes I even do crazy stuff like this water tower. I built that from scratch. No plan. Well, I made the plans, but no pre-purchased plans. This wasn't necessarily a kit. It uses parts from a kit, but I designed and built the dimensions and everything myself. I did that not because I wanted to, but because I had a specific water tower in mind, and no one sells it, so I had to build it myself. And so, yeah, it's kind of funny that way, because I actually don't like the building process, but I'm such a perfectionist, I have to do it, you know. But yeah. So anyway, we will begin working on this engine house. Let me go ahead and put the phone into the camera mount. Well, it's actually a perfect view, because you can kind of see what my dad's doing and what I'm doing, sort of. Okay, so now that that's done, let me get the tools I need to kind of keep working. So as you can see on this side, I've applied the wood slats, but the other side now needs that. And last minute, so this was an alteration, I decided that a small maintenance shop will go right here, because this engine house may look big, but the trains barely fit in it, and the workers do need a place to build stuff, so I'm going to do that. There's also a little door here. You'll see as I work on it, there'll be a little door there. But yeah, so let me grab some of the supplies I need to continue working on this. Oh, where's that pencil I had? There we go. Need a pencil. And then I will attempt to read your guys' comments as I work on this. So, Rayanne says, "Hello, Alex and Dad. These videos of you both working on these projects are fun." Thanks.
Thank you.
Alright, so to do the slats on the building, I use these coffee stirs, and basically, let me remove the roof. Well, actually, you know what? Before I work on that, I want to put the support, because the roof is barely glued together. As you can see, there's no cross beams that hold these two pieces together. So, yeah, I'm gonna do that next. So let me see. I think that's a good place to start. This is from an old tunnel I was working on, but I'm not... I built the other better tunnel, so I don't need this. So I'll just use the wooden pieces I already cut out for that, and I'll just cut these down to size. I think 4 should do it. I don't want to make too much work for myself. Well, actually, maybe 5. Yeah, because I'm going to put some cross beams. Oh, I dropped one. Okay. Because the cross beams, I'm going to cut these down, but they're basically going to go... Oh, you can't see that. They're basically going to go like that. They'll be cut down shorter so they fit further up, but they're going to basically go like that. And you're going to be able to see it from this cutout in the roof. So I'm probably going to do 5 so you can see it from there. But they really will serve a function. They're not just for looks. They'll help hold the roof together. So I'll need to see what the distance is on that. How's the house going, Dad?
Very good.
Nice. Alright, so just want to measure the distance between these pieces. Looks like 2 3/4 inch. I can work with that. Okay. So here's the 5 pieces. And then we just bring it up to here and then mark 2 3/4 inches. And that's where I'll cut that one. So let's see. Raymond Legg says laser cut engine house. Yeah, I thought about buying a laser cut one, but my layout is so small. I'm trying to use forced perspective to make it look larger than it really is. And part of doing that is having to custom build the buildings. So that farmhouse will be fine because, well, I got it for a deal, so I'm not gonna, complain about it. But what I can say is maybe it's fancy because it's owned by the mayor of the town, and so maybe he gets the biggest house or something. But the other the other places, the other little cottages will be much smaller, more reduced in scale, just to kind of fit in the layout. Alrighty. Those pieces are measured. Now we need to cut them down. Brian says, just join the stream. Hope all is going well. Indeed it is. Oops. There we go. First piece. So is anyone else here working on a layout of their own? Does anybody work with HO scale or O scale or even N scale? Motorized Misfit says, I'm a Lego guy. Alright. Yeah, I know they make some pretty crazy Lego trains now. I remember when they first started doing those Lego trains in the 1990s, and they were very basic, but nowadays they're actually quite elaborate stuff. So, pretty cool. Alright, so now I'm going to cut a little angle on the end of each piece so that way it'll glue better on the ceiling of the roof. There we go. There we go. Now you can kind of see the end result. Something like that. Now I got 4 more to do. Let's see. Spirit says, I don't like buying Legos. Lego trains, that is. Raymond says, no layout yet, but I do plan on doing a nostalgic 3-track 4x8 European/US layout. How is that going to work? A European and US layout? Wow. RWS Modeler says, I have Hornby Thomas characters. Oh, I've heard of those, yeah. From the Hornby company. John says, I should own my Lego display. Oh, John says work on my Lego display. Okay. I was wondering what you meant. I was like, huh? Spirit says, I don't like Lego trains, but I do make mocks from parts and stuff, and it's fun and rewarding work, just sometimes it's a pain. Huh, I haven't heard that word before. Motorized Misfit says, I started watching you from the Haunted Mansion series a while back. I love that ride. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that Haunted Mansion series was not easy. I even met with Imagineer Bob Gurr in order to ask him some things about the Haunted Mansion so I could get the information right. Not very many things. He was busy, but... Rayanne says, my dad had a lot of HO trains and a layout. Actually just brought it all to my house to continue working on it. He passed away a few years ago. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about that. But you brought it to your house to work on it. Oh, nice. Hello, Ship Builds. Jamie Nova says, same here, going to build a layout too. I enjoyed the modeling part. Yeah, that's, allows you to be pretty creative. I mean, while I don't necessarily enjoy the building process, I will say that when I am usually done with a project, I start to feel very proud of what I did because usually it comes out the way I want it to, and you get this sense of accomplishment, like, oh, I did that myself, Of course, I have my dad here for free labor, so.
Slave labor.
Yeah. Mike Pfeiffer's here. Oh my gosh. Hello from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Not new and not Mexico. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Mike, I actually used to watch your channel for years. Yeah. So, good to see you here. I only got back into model railroading recently because I had my layout in the storage for 2 years, and so every time I watched model railroading stuff, it made me kind of miss working on it. So, but now I'm back into it, and my dad's helping me out, so... RWS Modeler says, I'm also building layout based on Britain with German houses. They look British, though. Oh, nice, yeah. I was just telling my dad that one of my favorite comedians, Eddie Izzard, is actually also into model railroading. Eddie Izzard's from the UK, and so the layout that Eddie works with is British. And I think Eddie also had... donated a very large World War II Christmas time themed British layout to a model railroad club, if I have that correctly. So, yeah, pretty neat. John says MOC is acronym for my own creation. Oh, I see. I'm so bad with acronyms.
Yeah, me too. LOL.
Yeah, my dad uses the voice typing command on his phone. So when he says LOL, it comes back as OW, O as in OH, and then OW. So
Yeah, but that's only when I'm driving.
Uh-huh.
It's the way Siri hears it in the car.
I used to think he was calling me Al. I'm like, when has he ever called me Al? Like, Al. Oh, Al. Okay. This is the part where Pacific CY, hello. BNB Railroad says, fixing to start redoing my layout tomorrow. Oh, nice. What kind of railroad layout do you have? What scale and what size? Alright, so now got my super glue here, and we're going to apply some of these. I'm not going to be too obsessive about where exactly I'm placing the cross beams, only because it's only going to be visible from the top and through this small thing, so not many people will ever see it. And plus, I don't want them to see too much anyway, because the lighting system's going to be mounted under here, including the big box that the lighting system has. So I don't want people to see too much anyway. But, yeah, so let me go ahead and make some more room here. So we apply some glue to the... Whoa! Big bubble of glue came out. Okay. This is supposed to be a gel glue, but sometimes if you don't mix it up enough, it just comes out as liquid. So I'll start, since I got 5 pieces, I'm going to start with the center piece. That way... Oh, that angle is not... I should have done a sharper angle on that. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the angle is not sharp enough, so it's just kind of... The corners are kind of just sitting on top of the thing. Alright, so... Let's see... Sarah, how's it going? Motorized says the resin river will take a long time to dry. Yeah, it will, but you know, that's kind of one of the things we have to deal with when we do this stuff. I'm not usually a very patient person, so it will be difficult for me to just sit there and wait for, you know, the resin to set. So I'm going to put this glue away because I do have to make alterations to these other pieces. I want them to have a good fit to the roof because it will help hold the 2 pieces of the roof together. So I'm going to set this. I think it can sit like that. I don't think it'll be a problem. Alright. So I was using this really shallow angle here, but now I'm going to use the 45 degree. I think that'll be a much sharper thing. Yeah, Mike, Mike Pfeiffer, one of the things I really liked about your layout is that you work with N scale and you do it with, well, you know, you model the New Mexico area, but one of the things I really liked about it was that how much detail you were able to put in everything. And, of course, the fact that you were working with... I think the time frame you're working with is 1950s, correct me if I'm wrong. But it was really cool because you had all these different things in there. You had, you know, all kinds of engines from that era, you know, and you had all these vehicles and stuff. And you had these funny businesses that had these funny names, and there was always these gags and stuff put everywhere. So, really great stuff. Yeah, if anybody here doesn't already, you guys should watch Mike Pfeiffer's channel. It's got some great stuff. Oh, and I believe you also have a online store. I've purchased from that before. Cool. Okay. We're going to test fit this, see if this is a little bit better. No, not really. It needs to be a shallower angle than that. So it's going to have to be a custom cut. I don't feel like doing that. I knew it too because this roof, I kept telling myself, like, maybe I should design it at a 45-degree angle because I have a 45-degree angle cutting thing. But I didn't want the roof to be too tall because then it would make my layout look too small. I didn't want the buildings to be too large. So I made this custom, angle, and now I'm kind of facing the dilemma of now I can't get the beams to get a good fit on there. So I don't know.
Are the beams going to go across?
Yeah, just like this one sitting here. But the thing is that, see the angle I cut it at?
Yeah.
It's not a sharp enough angle. So really when I put the glue on them, only the very edge of the tip of the angle is sitting on the roof, which isn't providing much support that way.
Yeah.
So
are you going to be able to see inside a lot?
A lot, no. I was thinking about it, but then I thought the engine house is really too small to put anything in there. Like, there's no room for tables, work equipment, nothing. So
I would cheat it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. So, and the windows, I think I'll keep those clear so people can see the engines when they look into it. But the roof area will be harder to look through, especially because the lighting system will have a special light box that will fit under here.
Yeah.
And it'll just sit on the bottom side of the roof, so I don't know. In the future, maybe the little work shed that I'm going to build to the side of it, maybe that'll have, like, I can remove the roof and people can see that. But then again, it's all the way in the middle of the layout. No one's going to, like, reach their head over the whole layout to see it, so. Mateo, how's it going? Gray House says buffering, buffering, buffering. Yeah, that's not on my end. Sorry about that, but yeah, that's not on my end. I have really good internet. So, BNB Railroad says it's an HO 4x8 fixing to be 8x6, 8x16. Wow. That's pretty big. But that's neat. Yeah, mine's a 4x8. And I don't think it'll ever get any bigger unless I get rich. So, let's see. Katie says, wow, this is quite a project. I'm sure it's a labor of love. Yeah, it really is. I am very happy with how it's turning out so far. So I think it's going to be good. It'll be worth all the effort. Hunter says, any tips on model railroading? Oh, I got a lot of tips if you want something more specific. But I mean, basically, number one thing, just carefully plan out everything. Just really think about it multiple times. Picture it in your head or draw it on a piece of paper if you can. Plan out the budgeting for everything. Each step of the way, each step of things that have to be done, plan it in advance as best you can. Otherwise, it will be a lot of work. I'll put this one here. So, all right, that'll just have to go there. Pacific says, I want to try to do model railways, predominantly British stuff. Only issue is the fact that it's rather expensive. Yeah, model railroading is really expensive. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I had model trains, and I've always wanted to have a layout. And really, it wasn't until, basically until now that I've actually been able to get into it, because now I have the space and the time. So it is a very expensive hobby for sure. That piece will go there. It won't be perfect, but at least if you peek through the roof, it'll look like there's beams properly supporting it. Sarah says, sitting here working on finalizing a lease so my renter can move in on Tuesday. Finally got the renter from hell out of there. Then bring on tax season. Yeah, I do not envy you. Sarah does tax filing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So, she's busy like the whole year round. Tax season is the busiest time, though.
Yes. I don't know how to do my taxes. Every time I think I figure it out, I get it wrong.
Let's see here. Ship Build says, remember that time you did a video on the Montparnasse train crash? Yes, I do. Daniel says, hello, Alex. Hello, Dad.
Hello?
Hello. Hunter says, any tips on model railroading? Yeah, ask me anything specific. I'll give you tips. Sarah says, then you figure something out and the tax law changes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Who knows? Maybe that'll provide just a little bit of support for the roof. So while this dries, I will continue working on the siding. Hunter says, any tips on weathering trains? Some people do dry brushing. Some people use weathering powders. I'm more of a weathering powder fan when it comes to the locomotives and the rolling stock. But I will admit that weathering is something I haven't yet ever done. So I don't know how to do it necessarily. I have an idea, and I'm going to work on my idea. But yeah, that's one of the things that I actually really couldn't tell you. But
Well, I like weathering powder after you have painted and after you have put details into whatever you have painted. And with the weathering powders, it's kind of like makeup. You use a sponge and then you just kind of dust the whatever you have painted on there. I don't know if you like to do heavy weathering or if you like to just do slight weathering, so that others can see what you've done. I prefer slight weathering on anything, really, because I like to see the detail of a plane or a ship or a train. Because I think heavy weathering, anything that looks, I know some people want to do something that's looks natural, like when you go out into the real world and you see something. I understand that, but I feel that sometimes it's just too heavy, and there's some people that are too heavy-handed that it just looks like it's dirty, and you can't see the work that you've done. So I would go real light. Bandai Paints has pretty good pins that I like to use. They're the Gundam pins that do like the panels or paneling lining. They're really easy to work with, and you can panel line the things that you have painted, especially something like if you're doing like a locomotive, or if you're doing a freight train, or planes, or anything really. If you're doing ships or anything like that, you can use it, and then you can use a Q-tip to take some of that panel lining that has recessed above what you're trying to do, and it comes out great.
TT says, "Hi Alex, what do you think about ship model building like ocean liners?" I've built a Titanic model before by Micromart? Micro something. Yeah, I've built that before. That's the only ship model I've ever personally completed. It is, it's great to have the model when you're done, but it's such a small scale that I actually get pretty frustrated with myself because the work I put into it never seems to come out the way I want it to look. Which is part of the reason why when it comes to trains I model in O scale, because it's a much larger scale. You can get the details in there that you want. My dad has a lot of patience, so when he builds like models like ships and stuff like that, he's able to put in all those details he likes because he has a lot of patience, but I personally don't have that. But yeah, I would like to own a model of the Queen Mary, but like I've discussed this a lot of times, but there's currently no company that sells an accurate model kit of the Queen Mary. All the ones that exist are out of what's the word? Creation, out of manufacture. They don't make them anymore, basically, and they were last done in the 80s, and since then, model kit making technology has gotten a lot better, and so there's things on those model kits that don't look so good anymore, and
really, there's a lot of models now that are so detailed. Just the technology of the way they compress the plastic and everything is just awesome.
Yeah. So it'd be nice. I think right now the rights to model kits for Queen Mary is the city probably owns those rights now. So maybe they could make a deal with a ship model company to make a brand new model tooling for the Queen Mary. I'd buy that. I'd work on it, no matter how frustrating it was. Brian says, I think the word you're looking for was discontinued. Yes, discontinued was the word I was looking for. Let's see here. Gotta measure this. Alright, so... Uh-oh. Come on. You can kind of see how the framework for that window is coming along. And I have to avoid... I have to remember there's a door right here, so I got to avoid not paneling over that. But now here comes a tricky part, because the doorway will need a half piece, because I don't know if you can see, but this part kind of stands proud of the doorway. Yeah, if I use my shadow, you can kind of see how the paneling comes out from the doorway like that, and it makes it look like there's an uncompleted wall if I don't fix that. So I will need to... these ones are smaller. I wonder if this will work. No. It needs to be half. Rayanne says, do you have the layout all planned, or kind of decide on buildings as you make as you go? No, I have it all planned. So for a while I've kind of known what buildings will be on the layout. But there are certain things that change, though. So when I got these plastic buildings and stuff, the one that, like the one my dad's painting right now, with that, I've had to make exceptions. So a previous building that I had planned to build will no longer be built because it'll be replaced by that piece. But otherwise, yeah, like this engine house, for instance, was already in my head a long time ago before I ever started working on it. So I kind of already knew what I wanted. Okay, so I have to measure this one out. It'd be easier if I just turn it like this. measured that. RWS Modeler says, Alex, could you maybe make a video of the SS Rotterdam someday? Someday, yes, but I can't guarantee when. Daniel says, hey Alex, what was your first train? My first train, I don't know what it was called. I know it was a Santa Fe locomotive. It was a freight train, basically. And there was a Santa Fe locomotive at the front. One of those, I think what you call a Jeep. GP. So, and then the cars behind it were various freight cars. There was one of those, well, I think I had a couple. There were well cars for the containers, the shipping containers. I had a couple of tank cars. I had a couple of automobile cars, or auto cars, I think they call them. A caboose, stuff like that, and then it all ran around on Easy Track. So I had a lot of Easy Track with various turnouts and things like that. And I actually held on to that train set for a long time. I think I had it even just prior to moving up to Portland. But it no longer ran. It was just so old. And it was in such bad disrepair because I ran it since I was a kid and I didn't take very good care of it.
Yeah, that was a Bachmann.
Yeah, Bachmann.
So.
Yeah. So I ended up getting rid of that. But I did keep one of my HO scale trains, because that was HO scale. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that was HO scale. But I did keep my other HO scale train, which was a DeWitt Clinton replica. So it was a DeWitt Clinton. So it had the locomotive, it had the tender, and then 3 passenger carriages. And I actually just brought it out a few days ago. I'll show you guys. I brought it out to get it cleaned up, and I actually got it running again, but let me move this a little bit. But that's my DeWitt Clinton HO scale, and it's very old. I think I got it in 1997. So but I did clean it up and get it running again. Because I work with ON30 scale, that means that while I am working with O scale, the tracks themselves are HO scale, because it's a narrow gauge system. So I was able to run the DeWitt Clinton on my tracks. And but it's, you know, its only power pickup is the tender. That's it. That's the only place it picks up power. So when it goes over these unpowered frogs in the switch track rails, it loses power instantly. So there's really no point in running it on the layout because, you know, it'll stop 3 times around the track. So, but yeah, but that DeWitt Clinton is one of the first train sets I ever got. But for those who didn't tune in when we first showed up, I'll just give you a brief little tour. So we did the second coating of plaster cloth on the mountain work. After that dries, I'll paint plaster onto it to give it a nice hard shell. We also plastered the entire river to make it leak proof for when I eventually do the resin water. That'll have to be painted with plaster as well to make sure any of the little holes and things are plugged up. And then, as you saw a few minutes ago, I'm working on the engine house. That's where the locomotives will be. For those who've been tuning in, you'll notice there's a brand new track. So there's the brand new track there. And that is isolated because this is a DC system. So, so it is isolated just like the engine house tracks are from the rest of the circuit. That way I can run an engine, while another one is put away without having to actually take it off the track physically. So yeah, that one is isolated as well. So that makes it 3 isolated tracks. That means I had to add a third switch for turning on or off the isolated tracks. And yeah, and so my father's working on painting the farmhouse. So there it is there. The gray is just the primer, but the blue is the part that he's painting. So, and that little farmhouse will go on that little hill there with the dead horse. And, yeah. Yeah, so that is the layout for now. But yeah, back to, RWS Modeler says farmhouse is looking nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
So we decided this is going to be the mayor's house?
It might be the mayor's house because it'll probably be the nicest looking house on the whole layout.
Yeah.
The rest are going to be pretty, grungy looking.
So Mayor McStuffin?
McStuffin? What are you talking about?
That's his name now.
No. If I have anything to say about it. Okay, so where's that saw? Thank you, Mike. Radio Isotopics says, recently bought an ON30 Forney from eBay. Can't wait to get it and test it out for the first time. Awesome. Yeah, the Forneys are really good. They automatically... I'll give you a warning, though. When you buy them, you can only run them on DCC track. If you try to immediately put them on DC track, you will short-circuit the whole thing. So, yeah, that's just a warning. You have to have DCC. It's weird because when I bought mine, it said, runs on both DC and DCC. And so when I got it working, because it wasn't working when I got it, it didn't do that. So I ended up ripping out the microchip anyway. But yeah. But in case you short circuit yours, well, then send me an email. Maybe we'll make a deal and I'll buy it from you. Alright, so... this thing. Daniel says, hey Alex, are you going to use anything woodland scenics for scenery? I have a lot of woodland scenic stuff. Practically 90% of everything that I'm going to be landscaping with will be woodland scenics products. So I even have a waterfall kit that is woodland scenics. I have a rock work making kit that is woodland scenics. Today, the second layer of plaster cloth that went onto the mountains was woodland scenics. Although I will say I do not like woodland scenics plaster cloth. It is a very inferior product to some other stuff that I used to buy. But the other stuff I used to buy is now 5 times more expensive than it used to be, so I didn't buy it when I needed more. But yeah. RWS Modeler says, will you ever run a big boy on your layout? No, because it doesn't make sense. Because my layout is O scale, and it uses narrow gauge. There were no narrow gauge big boy locomotives. And even if there was, even if I was just running an HO scale big boy on my layout, it would not fit on the layout. The turns are too tight. the bridges are too narrow, and yeah, it literally would not fit on the layout. So
You think my Challenger would fit?
it might fit on like half the layout,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Pony Truss Bridge just behind
Yeah.
the tunnel, that's too narrow,
Yeah.
so it won't fit through that bridge. But yeah. So where is this thing? I kind of need that green mat.
Oh, okay. Take it.
Just slide it over. Thanks.
No.
Oh, jeez. I hate doing this part because these stir sticks are made out of a really tough wood. So when you try to cut through them, they just don't want to cut. Come on. There's gotta be an easier way of doing this. If I had power tools for this job, maybe. Daniel says, "Hey Alex, do you have any tips for beginners in the hobby?" Well, like I've been saying, the best tips I can give you, the most generalized stuff, is just plan everything out to the tiniest detail far ahead of time, long before you start working. As long as you plan every step of the way very carefully, the construction of your layout will go a lot smoother. Rytubiup says you should get some wagon kits to assemble. They can be cheaper than buying ready-to-run stuff. No. I've seen some kits for the various cars and things, and they are more expensive. For instance, there's a caboose that I really want to buy, and it costs about, I think about $45. But there is a kit of almost that same exact style of caboose, and the kit costs $100. So yeah, it's in ON30 scale. A lot of the rules kind of change. Sometimes buying ready-to-run stuff is actually cheaper than buying kits. made the cut. Now I'm just gonna split that. There we go. All right. All that work just to just to fit it in this little part right here. In fact, I think I need the smaller piece. Yeah. The smaller piece works better for that. All right. Jonah says, ON30 truly can rack up in price. It really can. When I first started ON30, they were still manufacturing a lot of stuff. So, as they're actively manufacturing things, the prices can be more affordable. I'm not going to say cheap, because by no means is model railroading cheap in any way, but it was more affordable back then. But nowadays, they've pretty much stopped manufacturing the quantity of stuff they used to. Now they only manufacture a very specific niche of locomotives and rolling stock. Very, very small amount. And because of that, ON30 is more expensive to work with now. So it has become kind of a bummer, because certain things... Like, I was showing my dad the other day that I have one of my box cars for... I'll get it in a second to show you guys, but I'm just setting this... There we go. Let that glue down. I'll get the box car. So this box car... Now, I bought this specific one at a train show. It was pre-owned. Some other guy owned it. He was selling it off. It had a bent brake wheel bar, and it had a few other damages. The couplers didn't work, all that stuff. I spent the money and fixed it up. Didn't cost much, honestly, to fix it up and make it look like new again. But I got it for $10. But brand new back then, this was like 2018. Back then, this boxcar would have sold for $36, maybe $40 brand new back then. But this same boxcar now goes for $85 because, I don't know, they don't make it anymore. So, yeah, $85 now. So I was really lucky that I was able to buy 2 boxcars and a cattle car from the same guy, each piece $10. So I spent $30 total on the 3 cars. And all it required was me to kind of fix it up and make it look like new again, But, yeah, but today this would go for $85, which is just insane to me. Just absolutely insane. I would never pay $85 for this. I mean, it's wonderful, but that seems like a really inflated price. And it is, again, because they don't make this anymore, so... Chris says, the house that your dad is working on is coming out great.
Oh, thanks. It's taken a couple of coats of paint, just like any house.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I put 3 coats of paint on this side already, and it might need some more, so yeah.
Yeah. You have enough paint?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I gotta continue with this. I gotta go above the doorway. Okay. Jonas says, that's my big problem in ON3. Things are rare, and you have to really look for the deals. Yeah, yeah. It really is sad because there's a lot of people that would really get into ON3 or ON30, and but the thing is now that they don't manufacture as much stuff anymore, they've really reduced what they're offering. Now you just have to look for, people who are selling off the stuff that they have, and it does kind of suck. A lot of the times the stuff doesn't work, so you have to fix it yourself. So it's kind of funny. I feel like ON30 or even ON3 has become one of those, those kinds of hobbies where you're like, what's one of those shops where they take something that's broken and they fix it and then they resell it. But it's kind of like, a junk shop. You buy a bunch of stuff that doesn't work or is broken, you fix it up yourself and you call it good because they just don't sell that stuff anymore. And it all happened so quickly. Again, 2018 was the last time I saw like some good stuff that was being manufactured and sold on the big company websites. Now they're just like, oh, there's like, I think one of the things they're still manufacturing is Bachmann still has a narrow gauge 460, a 10-wheeler basically. Oh no, actually no, it's a Mikado. Or no, because it doesn't have a trailing wheels. It's a 280, and that's what they're selling right now on their website. And I'm like, okay, well that's great for people who have really big layouts and stuff, like turns that are more than 4 feet in diameter. But that would never fit on my layout because the tightest turn I have is a 21-inch radius. Yeah, so that would never fit on the layout. But not that I'd want it anyway. That locomotive is too big for my taste, but yeah. So for those that are wondering, the engine house I'm putting together, it is starting off looking like this brand new building with, freshly cut lumber and all that. But actually, when I'm done assembling, the meat and potatoes of the building, it will then be stained to make the wood look a bit more aged. And then over the stain will go a paint. And then the paint will be roughed up to make it look like the paint's kind of, coming off the building a little bit. And so the building will look more aged. Right now I'm just excited just to finish this building. In fact, I might even... So I'm building a separate shed that'll occupy this space right there where my hand is covering. So really, the only parts left I have to panel on this wall are to the right and left of my hand, which you can see there's windows there. I'm actually thinking that just to save on time, the window on the left, this one, I'm probably just going to cover that up with paneling. I'll preserve the window on the right, maybe. Oh, wait, no, the window on the right's actually being done. So, actually, yeah, it's this area. So I'm just going to panel over the last window, and there will be no more windows on this side. So, just because the windows themselves I know are going to take me forever. Those all have to be custom made. I thought about buying windows. The thing is that there used to be a person on eBay that... Well, not a person, I guess it was a company that made ON30 style old-fashioned windows. They made all kinds of Victorian windows and stuff, Victorian doors, furniture even. They are not around on eBay anymore. I don't know where they went, and so I'm gonna have to make these windows myself, which is fine. But it'll, with all the windows in the building, it'll take a long time. So if I have, if I have 3 less windows to do, that'll save me a lot of headache. So. Daniel says, "Hey Alex, would you ever want an ON30 Shea Climax or Heisler?" I wouldn't mind a Shea, but because I did think about it. Someone was selling a Shea for a pretty decent price, and I was like, "Oh, that might actually be something good to have." But I really thought about it, and it wouldn't make sense for my layout. Yeah, I'm gonna have logging cars, but only 3. And honestly, I was going to reserve the little porter engine to haul the logging cars. So, and then the other train is a freight train and the other train is a passenger train. And Shays, they didn't always, transport those. So, I mean, sometimes they did, but I don't really want it that much. Not as much as I want another Forney locomotive, actually. So, I don't know. If I had to, I'd get a Shea. But yeah, right now my top sites for my 3rd locomotive are another Forney. But I do know I want 3 locomotives. No more, no less. Oh, looks good, Dad.
Thanks. Just need to let it dry a little bit and go over it again.
That's actually kind of good, because I thought you'd finish before I did, and I was like, oh man, I have to think of things for you to do.
But see, the site's drying right now.
Oh yeah.
But what I wanted to do was make it look like it's been painted with a brush. So, which
that looks great.
Yeah.
I like that detail that you because some people would have just mopped over it with a big brush.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea that it was painted by hand. That's exactly what the layout is all about. My layout, at least. It's a brand new town, brand new area. They didn't give it much thought because it's really just a whistle stop for the train operations. And so, the buildings would have just been, quickly put together. And even the mayor's house, as nice as it is, would have been hand-painted and, well, of course, hand-painted, but you know what I'm saying. Now I can get back into the easy part of building this. Looks like the beams on the roof have kind of dried in place. They're not all that solid, but it'll help provide a little bit more stability. And the idea is, when you look at it from the top, you can kind of see that there's beams in there. And I'm going to carefully hide the lights on the beams. So I'll probably there's going to be 4 lights in this building. And probably be, 1 on each part of the roof here and 1 on each on part of the roof here. So it'll light up the front and back of the locomotives as they sit in the building. Let's see here. Oh, there's a lot of questions all of a sudden. Daniel says, off topic, but if Artemis, Queen Mary, and Queen Elizabeth weren't built, what would be your favorite liner? Mauritania and Lusitania, yeah. It's the same thing as my top 10 list. So, if you go down my top 10 list, canceling, ships, it would just be the next one down on the list. RWS Modeler says, why can't you use a 3D printer for it? Would that be cheaper? No, because I'd have to buy the 3D printer, and those can be hundreds to thousands of dollars. And, yeah, I don't have a use for it. Now, my friend Steve, Steve R., sometimes he's in the chat, he has a 3D printer, and he's offered that when he has his house set up and everything, because he just got a new house, so when he has his house set up and everything and his shop put together, he's offered to 3D print me some wagons, horses, carriages, even people, tables, and that little stuff like that. Like, he's offered to print those for me. I might be able to get him to print me windows, but I'm going to be totally honest, I'm probably going to be done constructing the buildings by the time he would even be ready to print me windows. So, I probably won't need it, but yeah, the other stuff he's offered to print, I do need wagons and horses and bears. So, yeah. Wagons and horses and bears. Oh my. Let's see.
I was going to say that, but I don't want to seem too dad-like.
Yeah, sometimes you're a bit too dad-like. Rand says, what size train goes around in the shop on Main Street? That is a G gauge. So I know normally we say scale, like M scale, HO scale, O scale. But that is G gauge. We call that G gauge because when it comes to that size, they make the rails a certain size, but a lot of times the companies make their locomotives and rolling stock different scales that fit that same size. So it's kind of funny that way. But yeah, that is a G gauge set. It was from a company called LBG or LGB or something like that. LGB, yeah. And they're a good company. They make some really nice stuff. But funny enough, that train that runs around the shop on Main Street, that used to be a product they sold in the shop. I remember them selling it when I was a kid. And then, eventually they stopped producing that model and Disney stopped selling it. But they still kept the little train that rolls around the top of the shop. So that's kind of an interesting little story. Chris says, my old layout was based on the railroad that ran through my home and town of Marceline, the Santa Fe Railroad. What would have become the BNSF RR? Yeah. That is one reason why I wanted to extend my old layout to include the rail yard of Fort Madison, Iowa. Oh, wow, interesting. So that's what you're doing now, is you're going to extend the rail yard? Jonah says, with ON3 having a minimum radius of 36 inches, the ON3 layout is becoming a switching layout since I don't have space to do the lopping. Yeah. Sorry. I think you mean looping. But yeah, that's understandable. In fact, sometimes I get so obsessed with stuff. I actually, before I settled on ON30, I had actually considered doing ON3. But you already know, when you work with ON3, you have to do everything yourself, including the tracks. So I was kind of like, I don't feel like making tracks myself. So, but yeah, minimum radius 36 inches. Jeez, yeah. myself in the eye with this mat. Okay, I'm good. Daniel answered that one. RWS Modeler says, what scale of track does gauge 1 run on? I don't think that's a thing. I've never heard of gauge 1. Not unless it's from another country. Chris says, I would have some of the Mississippi River to that part of the layout. Oh, nice. Jonas says, the window guy in question on eBay was Grantline Details. It's now a new company. San Juan Details is the name. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, Grantline was what I was looking for. So it's San Juan Details? Okay, I'll look for that. Maybe they're on eBay. Unless I can just go to their online store if they have one. Gus says, nice job. Thank you. Chris says, always wear safety glasses. I know. I have them too. I bought them specifically so I could build this layout, and I never wear them. Jonas says, they have an online site. They consolidated around 4 detail companies under one name. Wow. So they've become kind of like a little mini conglomerate. Okay. Good. I'm only going up to there, so nearly done with this part of the construction. MP, or Mateo, says gauge 1 is the same width as G gauge, but it has smaller, more realistic rails. Oh, interesting. I've never heard of gauge 1 before. But that makes sense, because I always thought G gauge had ridiculously large rails. Then again, that's what makes it easier for garden layouts, so... Jonas says, I think the appeal of modeling narrow gauge is the scrappy, put-together look of most of their railroads. Yeah, I mean, that's why I became interested in it, was because I liked how scrappy and put together it is. Another thing, too, is that it's O-scale, so it's really easy to remember how to build stuff know how to build stuff because you remember the dimensions, a 1/4 inch equals a foot, and that's really easy to remember. And again, I guess HO scale would be at 1/8 of an inch equals a foot, but even then, why would you want to scratch build anything in HO scale when you could just buy kits and stuff? Okay. So now this. So you can kind of see I'm just gluing each plank of board to the thing. Hold it there for a few seconds. The glue will immediately start setting. Golden Sniper says, what type of glue do you use? Well, there it is. It's Gorilla Super Glue Gel. So I use that for this stuff. But also, I use different glues and adhesives for different things. So, like later on, when I put the tar paper roof onto the roof structure, I have a special, it's basically a glue stick, but it's not like the washable ones that the kids use. It's an actual permanent glue stick, but it's a glue stick. And that'll be really good for putting the tar paper on. You know, there's also, like, if I need to glue plastics, I wouldn't use the super glue. That would probably eat through the plastic. I mean, I think it is designed to glue plastic, but I wouldn't want to take the risk. But if I needed to glue plastic, I have a glue for that. So, yeah. Chris says, to get 1/4 of the Santa Fe subdivision in HO scale on my layout would be about 1,500 yards long. Wow. Yeah, I know some people have asked me, like, oh, Alex, are you going to put a scale version of the Queen Mary on your layout? And I'm like, that would mean I would have a 24-foot long model of the Queen Mary in my house. I'm like, that's... Yep. One of the videos I actually want to make someday is a video about exactly how big Queen Mary is compared to things. Because there were some people that asked me some questions that I think a lot of us would think are just really out there. But like, some people have asked me, oh, Alex, how come when Disney was operating Queen Mary, how come they didn't move the Queen Mary into the Rivers of America at Disneyland? And I'm like, you realize the Queen Mary is bigger than the entire Rivers of America at Disneyland. Like, it's huge, you know? And then how are you going to move a ship that size? You know, I think Disneyland is 10 miles inland. So how are you going to move it on streets 10 miles inland? The ship is 118 feet wide. That's wider than a freeway in Southern California. You know, like... You know, so people don't realize how big the Queen Mary is. I don't know why, but it actually is it's actually a common thing that people don't realize how big the ship is. They know the numbers, but they can't picture it in their head. So I thought I would make a video that compared the size of Queen Mary to a lot of things, and it would be a video that kind of explained how much supplies were brought on board as well. You know, things like 50,000 fresh eggs per voyage, you know, 15,000 potted plants, that kind of thing. So it would really explain a lot. 30,000 fresh linen pieces and all kinds of stuff. Made from 10 million rivets, enough that if you piled them all together into a pyramid, it would make a pyramid, how big is it? A pyramid taller than, is it the Washington Monument? I forget. Not really sure. But yeah, a video about that. Mateo says, don't judge me too harshly for this, but I'm pretty sure if Queen Mary was placed with the bow at Main Street Station, the stern would be out in Toontown. No, but you do have the start of the idea there. I measured it perfectly. If you were to put the Queen Mary's bow right at the partner statue on Main Street, then the stern would reach all the way just past Tomorrowland train station. So that is, that is how big the Queen Mary is. It literally takes up half the park in terms of length. Yeah. So another thing is if you were to place her on top of the Rivers of America, she would go from the entrance to Pirates of the Caribbean all the way to the railroad tracks around the north edge of the river. So that is how big the Queen Mary is. And then, I guess for those who are not Disneyland savvy, if you were to compare the Queen Mary's size, the Queen Mary is just like a few feet under. If you were to measure her from keel to, or from bow to stern, standing up, her length would be just under the height of the Eiffel Tower. And she would also be taller than the Chrysler Building, but just shorter than the other building, the famous one, Empire State Building. I couldn't think of the name. I was picturing Emperor Palpatine in my head. Rena says, just tuning in. Hello. Hello, Rena. Hey, Dad, that paint looks really good.
Thanks.
Chris says, some people think that RMS Titanic could go up the Mississippi River. They don't understand how big ocean liners are. Yeah, no, they don't. The Mississippi River is very shallow. There's only room for those flat-bottom river boats at the time. Now today they have they have like all kinds of tugboats and things, and then I think the cargo container ships, they can only go up a certain distance. I think just barely past New Orleans, but they can't go very far past that because the river is way too shallow. RWS Modeler says, what if we made ships as fast as a plane? Now, planes, if you were to take like your average airline, goes about 400, maybe 450 miles per hour, just about. If you were to make an ocean liner travel that fast, the ocean would literally rip the ship apart because the amount of drag that it produces, it would not be humanly possible to do that. You know, it's already difficult for an airplane to go that fast in air, and air is not as dense as water. But if you tried that with an ocean liner or even just a small speedboat, they could never go that speed. Mateo says, just measured it. Queen Mary's stern would be about where the carousel is. From the tip of Toontown or from the partner statue? Or I forgot what you were. Let's see. I'm pretty sure if Queen Mary's place with the bow at Main Street. Oh, I see. So if the bow at Main Street station, and then the stern would be where the carousel is. Oh yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah. You know, it's funny. All I'm doing is really just cutting little pieces of lumber and pasting them to the building, but it has taken me a long time. So how many people here today saw my video that I posted today about whether White Star Line sacrificed speed for luxury and whether Cunard sacrificed luxury for speed? Mike says, I watched the video. RWS Modeler says, still need to watch it. Let's see here. RWS Modeler says, how long is the stream right now? Because it's 2 a.m. in the morning in the NR. I don't know what the NR is. The stream's been on for almost an hour and 50 minutes. I am going to end it soon because it has been going on for a while. But Chris says, Ron, my old friend who was a Navy SEAL, when his ship, the USS Truxton, would get up to 35 plus knots, the ship would vibrate and shake. Yeah, 35 knots is very fast for a large ship. Mateo says, I'm a little surprised that one of them Silicon Valley developer types hasn't tried to turn Queen Mary into condos. I'm really glad they haven't, actually. But I'll tell you part of the reason why I don't want it, and probably the same exact reason why they haven't done it, is because she is made out of a lot of wood. And all that wood would be a huge fire hazard. Now, thankfully, the ship still has a lot of her functioning fire safety designs. Maybe not the fire systems, those are all modern, but the fire safety designs such as they have firewalls and fire doors all over the ship that still date back to the 1930s. Those all are designed so if there is a fire and it's detected, all the fire doors will shut and the ship will act like separate compartments that can block off the fire. And the wood paneling that the ship is made of, all the decorated areas, is a laminated type paneling where sandwiched in between the wood layers is a layer of asbestos to prevent the fire from spreading too rapidly. So she is more fire safe in that way than a lot of ships of that era, but even still, she is a huge fire hazard. And, you know, people start kitchen fires in their houses all the time. You know, I've seen so many videos of it, people that just don't pay attention, they got the oil on too long, and then all of a sudden it bursts into flames, and then they try to put the fire out by smothering it in water, which only makes it explode. You know, and so things like that could set the ship alight. And while she is designed to be more fire safe, let's not forget that the Queen Mary's sister ship, RMS Queen Elizabeth, completely burned down. And granted, a lot of the safety systems on that ship were shut off because of the restoration that they were doing, but nevertheless, the ship burned. So I think that Queen Mary is not meant for people to permanently live on it. People to have their own kitchens and their own Christmas trees in their houses and stuff. Because she would just go up like a candle, to be totally honest. But is that how they say it, Dad, that goes up like a candle?
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes I mix and match all my metaphors.
I think it's good.
Cool. Sometimes when I mix all my metaphors, I feel like Biff from Back to the Future. He's like, make like a tree and get out of here. Chris says, I like your video. Mike says, it was a great video, very interesting. Thank you, guys. Jonah says, when I get space down the road, I'd love to model an O-scale port. Thought of how big it would be is concerning. Yeah, it would be very big. Even if you did an N-scale port, that would still be a huge model. Z-scale would probably be better, but even then, it would have to be like a modern port because I don't think they have very many options for Steam in Z-scale, so. Hello, Tico. RWS Modeler says Netherlands. I want to type. RWS Modeler says, how to stop a kitchen fire. Put your house next to the Titanic. What?
Because it's underwater?
Yeah, I guess so. Mike says, grease fires don't go good with water. No, they certainly don't. I remember when I was a kid, I had a friend, and their mom invited me over for dinner with them, and the mom was cooking chicken in the oven, and she left the chicken for a bit too long, or maybe she had the broiler on accident or something, but the tray of chicken in the oven caught on fire. She opened the oven, a big influx of air came in, made the fire grow bigger, and she freaked out and threw water on it, and it exploded. And I ran in there and I'm like, get baking powder or salt or whatever and just dump it on there. And so she did. She had a box of baking powder and she ripped it open and dumped the baking powder all over it, put out the fire. I was a very smart kid, you know.
Well, just last year I forgot about a pan while I was cutting up some vegetables, and it caught fire from the oil that I had already put in there. And so I just got a lid and put it on top of the pan, and it went out. But I don't panic. So.
Yeah. If you have a kitchen fire, it's always best not to panic. Just remember the things that grease fires don't like. They don't like not having oxygen, and they don't like not having something to burn. So a whole lot of salt, a whole lot of baking soda prevents it from burning, and then covering pots and pans with a lid will smother it. Water's never good to put on a grease fire. Jonah says, what model locomotive in ON30 would you want? Well, what I want and what the layout can handle are two different things. So what I want is an ON30 scale 440. I really like the way those are. Problem is, it just wouldn't work on my layout. The layout has too many tight turns, and there's literally nowhere to put the 440 because the engine house is not long enough for the 440. It's only barely long enough for the Forney locomotive. But I do want another Forney locomotive. I might even settle for a Shay, because I do like the way Shays look. So I might settle for a Shay if I can't get another Forney. And the Shay will definitely fit on the layout, and it'll definitely fit in the engine house. Okay, so I've done up to this point, which is all I need now. I just need to do this last piece here, and then the rest of this will be, I'll have a shed that kind of juts out the side of the building. So that's looking good.
Yep. I think next is the roof.
Yeah, the roof. My dad's gonna put
The roof or the chimney, I'm not sure.
Once my dad puts paints the roof and the chimney and all that, he's gonna apply some moss. He might dry brush it, or maybe he'll actually apply like little microfoam that I have designed for, for groundwork, but depends, but yeah. That looks really good.
Yeah.
RWS Modeler says a bunch of stuff that I don't know what that means. Jonah says, which 440, the inside or outside frame? I want the inside frame. I'm just not a fan of outside frame locomotives. They're a little weird looking to me. But yeah, an inside frame 440 if I could have it. Okay, that one, and I need another one of these. I don't know where the comment went, but somebody said that they were impressed, Dad, that you knew a lot about USS Boxer.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, you know, I like history. I'm a really big history buff. About World War II, a lot of World War II actually. Some Civil War, that kind of thing. But the Boxer, I knew I read about it before. So yeah, I mean, I dabble in a lot of stuff.
Chris says, 2 of my SD40-2 locomotives, I had added a lot of weathering. Yeah. Mateo says, the only outside frame locos I really like are the Rio Grande Mikes. Mikes? Is that like short for Mikados? I know Rio Grande had Mikados, but I haven't heard of it called Mikes. Jonah says, what radius are your curves? I have that little IF440, and it can definitely do tight corners. You have an inside frame 440? Wow. Well, the smallest radius curve on my layout is 21-inch radius. So that's the smallest curve. The other curves are much more broad. So I have a, well, I say much more broad, but it's probably, well, let's see, hold on. Smallest curve radius. Actually, it could be a 20-inch curve radius is the smallest. 20-inch radius, I think. No, it's definitely 21-inch radius. Sorry. It's definitely 21-inch radius. And then the other curve is much larger. It is a 23-inch radius curve. Yeah. So it's almost a full 4-foot diameter, almost. But yeah, those are the two radius curves on my layout. So I don't know if those 440s can do a 21-inch radius. Jonas says, if your Forney can do those curves, I'd say that the inside frame 440 can do it. I think the minimum for all the Bachmann locos is 18-inch. I don't know. I don't think that's... well, I know a lot of them do 18-inch, but there are some that do more. Like my Porter can do a 9-inch radius. So my Porter can actually do half that. But I do know that there's they have a 280 locomotive, and that one has a minimum curve radius of 24 inches. So it would have to be a 4-foot diameter turn. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I do know that they are different. Florencia, how's it going? Hi, nice blue building, and how are you? I'm good. That's my dad painting the building. So he just finished applying all the layers of the blue on the outside of the house, and now he's working on doing some of the kind of brick red for the chimney. So yeah, you can see he's working on the chimney there. The roof will still eventually have to be painted. The porch, there's going to be like a cream colored white trim that goes around all the building, and maybe even the shutters or something like that. I haven't figured out what the shutters will be, but yeah, so it'll be really nice. It'll be the fanciest house on the layout. All the others will be like, like shacks and shanties and stuff like that. Mateo says, doesn't Dave Meek run his 440s on 18-inch radius? I don't think so. I've thought about it. I've never heard him say what they were, but I've thought about the curves on his layout, and I don't think they're 18-inch radius. I could be wrong. Yeah, I'd have to look it up. There's... I forget where I found out, but I did my research on the Forneys before I bought mine, because I wanted to make sure that the Forney could not only do the smallest curve on my layout, but also that it could do it while still hauling a lot of cars. So I remember there was an update I did a long time ago it's not on this channel, it's on a different channel, but there was an update I did where I had... hold on, my phone's gonna die. Where's the charger? Oh. There it is. Hold on, you guys. My phone's gonna die. There we go. Okay. So... what I was going to say was there was an update I did where before I invested in all those passenger cars, I knew they would be really heavy. I figured out what the weight of the passenger cars were, and then I had 2 gondola cars, and what I did was I filled the gondola cars with quarters. So that way I would weigh them down. I weighed them down to the exact same weight. Well, both of them. So each gondola car was weighed down to the weight of 2 passenger cars. And then what I did was I had the locomotive pull them on an 18-inch radius curve, just to make sure that if it can pull that on an 18-inch radius curve, it could definitely pull it on a 21-inch radius. And it was successful, obviously, so I invested. Let's see. Yeah, have a good night, RWS Modeler. Florencia says, is those houses based off the real ones of the era? Well, the house that my dad's working on was a plastic kit that was already built when I purchased it. I don't know if it's based on the era, but we're painting it so it's based on the era. This engine house or engine shed will be based on the era. So I have looked up an engine shed that looks very similar to it.
Don't forget the other buildings. Those are based on the air.
Oh, yeah. So my dad built a building from scratch that's sitting on the layout. It's over there. So there's 2 more buildings over there. And, yeah, those are based in the same era, 1890s. So, yeah. Mateo says, I gotta go do the dishes and make myself some grub, but I looked it up, and the width of the base board for his turnouts are 36 inches, so it's actually less than 18-inch radius. Really? Wow. Huh. Sarah says she loves your shirt, Deb.
I actually had to think about what shirt I was going to wear today. I don't know why, but yeah.
All right. Well, folks, looks like we got a dip in viewers. A lot of people are leaving because they got dinner and stuff like that, and honestly, we should be planning out dinner now. But I am going to get going. Jonas says, do you think you'll add any mining to your layout? Mining, possibly in the future, yes. I've thought about it in the past, but at this moment, it's not an active thought in my head. But yeah. All right, folks, I'm going to get going. Thank you so much for joining us. You will see updates, official updates on the layout on the channel as we go along. But thank you so much. See you all later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.